Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Kenson Bi-Xenon HID conversion kit to convert your halogens into HIDs. Now, I did review a Kenson HID kit before, and it was a 35 watt kit, and it was a single xenon with a halogen in there. The halogen was the low beam. In this case, the high beams and the low beams will be a form of HID. And I'm not going to open the box because I already have all of this laid out, and you see there are a lot of wires. Now, it looks a little intimidating at first, but going through the instructions and figuring things out, it's really not all that much more complicated than the original kit. Basically, you just kind of hook everything up here. And the only real difference is the ballasts, well, not the ballasts themselves, but the connection here that goes all the way to this controller unit, which for whatever reason we need a special controller unit for this set, will be connecting to the battery. So we've got per bulb 2 negative terminals. They get connected to the battery, and we also have one positive terminal that goes to the battery, and it's got a fuse built into it, and you see the wire's red, so it'll be pretty easy to identify. And you know, these are simple. You just undo bolts and you slide this in where the bolt goes, and then you put the bolt back in. Not a big deal. Now you look at this mishmash of wires, and something I like to call tech spaghetti, because, well, it's a bunch of wires going everywhere and made of copper here. So one interesting thing right away is there's only one connection for the headlights for the 9007 socket here. So I don't know why there's not two, but maybe that's just how this thing is designed, because I don't see anything extra here. Really quick, let's go over the specs here. Once again, we're working with the infamous 9007 socket, which is known to have compatibility issues with aftermarket products. So hopefully maybe this kit is a bit better than the last kit I tried. Once again, we're using bi-xenons instead of a single xenon and a halogen. Each bulb pulls 35 watts. The color temperature is 6,000 Kelvin, and there's no real information in terms of how many lumens this particular product outputs. It's got, I believe, a 2 or 3 year warranty on the kit. So now that we got the specs out of the way, let's actually talk about the bulb. I'm going to be careful not to touch the bulb here. And you'll notice right away, this one is very different compared to the one we were working with before, because the other one had a big bulbous halogen in the middle, and it was really weird looking. And that halogen that got in the middle kind of blocked out a bunch of light in certain directions, which gave us kind of a patchy lighting. So that's what that looks like. I'm going to slide the shroud on over this. It doesn't have a fancy like plastic cover like the other one did. It's just a foam cover, but hey, whatever works, works. We got 3 connections here. One connection goes to the ballast. The other connection goes to the controller. And it's the same thing over here. And then, well, we've already gone over what controller goes to. Controller connects to the battery, and then we have the 9007 connection that goes into your factory wiring harness. Now, anyone who's got a 9007 vehicle knows that they need to be able to get a circular retainer lock on in order for the bulb to actually stay in place. Now, this is where a lot of problems come in, especially when you have a big bulbous kind of a thing in the back here, whether it's an LED or in this case an HID, and you wonder, well, how the heck do I get the retainer lock on, because it's not going to fit over that. They thought of that, and it's very simple. This gasket here, if you twist it clockwise, it will come off. And I really don't want to touch the bulb right now, but if you twist it clockwise, it comes off and comes out the top, and then you would slide the circular retainer lock back on, and then you would put the gasket back in and lock it in place. And to show you what that looks like, we've already got one done over here, and this is completely unmodified. So thankfully this kit is plug and play. With a lot of LEDs, the heatsink gets in the way and I have to modify the circular retainer lock. But this shouldn't be all that difficult to install. It's just going to be a bunch of mishmashed wires everywhere. Nevertheless, we got to give it a shot, so let's do it. Okay, as you see, we've got the headlights working, but the way this is designed has got me a little concerned here. So the instructions said to connect the controller to the terminals of the battery, positive and negative. And one thing really quick, so this controller or this ballast right here, 35-watt ballast, connects to this wire right here, which goes around and connects to the terminal here. But if we go all the way over here where the other ballast is around, this wire is not nearly long enough to connect to where they told me to connect it to. So for right now, this is a temporary kind of fix. We have just a good old wire that I found connected where everything needs to be. Now I suspect that these may actually just be grounding wires, even though they're telling me to plug it into the battery. But because they're plugged into the battery, they don't turn off. Yeah. So I suspect the controller was supposed to be able to tell the lights to turn off. For whatever reason, they didn't. But granted, the computer just reset, so let's take this jerry-rigged configuration out on the road for a minute just to kind of gauge and see what might be going on here. Okay, so luckily it was just an issue with the computer for a minute being first installed and the lights just turning on and the controller getting worked on or whatever. And thankfully, yes, it does turn off when the car turns off, and I can turn them off with my light switch here. So there's no need to worry. I've already turned the car on and off, and it does definitely turn off when I exit the vehicle, which is what this car is designed to do with its headlights. So this is the kind of beam pattern we get with the low beams, and if we go on high beams, it's a bit brighter. Beams are kind of patchy on the wall right here, and there is a slight flicker. But I want to say that's probably due to the jerry-rigged configuration we have to make sure we get that one wire going as far as we needed to go to connect to the battery terminal. So we're not just going to sit here and do this. We're going to go on the road, go on our usual path, and see how well they perform for real. Alright, so we are on the same road that I always test every single bulb on, and we're going to go down the same route that I always go on for every single bulb that I test. But first, let's talk about the light itself. So, the light on the street is actually relatively good diffusion. It's just slightly above patchy, which is acceptable. You might be able to see there's some flickering going on, like I was saying before. I really want to say that that's due to that really, poorly done jerry-rig just to make this work for right now. But this is low beams. Let's see what high beams do. High beams are a little disappointing here. We got this weird X pattern going on, which unfortunately is the same problem we had with the single xenon kit and the high beams in this reflector system in my car. Low beams, high beams, low beams. We're gonna let this guy go in front of me here. And then high beams. Well, granted, yes, the high beams do allow me to see further down the road. It doesn't really feel like it's properly diffused. It's patchy. And once again, yeah, that weird X configuration is kind of strange. So let's kind of just go down the road and see how everything works in the real world. So, driving down the road, and we just have a few street lights that they don't really do much of anything. I don't even know why we have them. Sorry, my camera cut out for just a second there. Anywho, we're continuing driving down. We're gonna head towards that spot where there's no external light from the street lights whatsoever. Right now we're on high beams. Go back to low beams, high beams, low beams, and you know what? Because these are dual xenons, there's no warm-up time between low beam and high beam, because they're just warmed up from the get-go, because it looks like it's like the same sort of filament or whatever it might be. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but switching back and forth is really quick on this, but I'm still not sure how I feel about how this works in my reflector unit here. So we are on the road that I always test all this stuff on. So this is completely dark, no assisted light. Let's just sit here for a second. So this is low beam in the darkest area I can find, and this is high beam. High beam's really not impressive. Low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam. And you can tell there's like some sort of physical switch going on inside. You can hear it. And I'm just going to drive with the low beams. The high beams, maybe you could see a little bit further down the road, but it's not really readily apparent. And that X pattern is just so kind of like obvious when you're driving, to the point where it's almost annoying. And we are going to go down another road where I'm going to switch back and forth between while I drive. And we are going to do that like I do with all the bulbs. So HIDs are more power efficient than halogens. Requires all those different sort of units to make everything work. More or less everything works fine. It's just the performance that I get a little concerned about. So we're going to turn down this road that I always turn down. And here, it's also really dark. So I'm just going to switch between the two. This is low beam, high beam, 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 low beam. So we got a good general sense of, what it's kind of doing here. And although the kit itself is pretty easy to install, minus, just a little bit of tweaking around, getting that one connection to fit all the way over to that battery, which kind of boggles my mind that why it was so short, if that's what they wanted you to do. But turning back in here for a moment, let's kind of just go over my final synopsis of this bulb really quick. Too many people just have you looking at a wall like this, and they say, oh, look at the beams, it's so much brighter. And they don't go driving down the road like I do to show you what it's really like. It's really annoying. Another thing about this kit is it's making me rev a little lower, which is interesting, because it's supposed to be using less power. Well, 35 watts per ballast. And another thing is weird is, it's only using one of the power inputs from the 9007 socket, which is kind of weird, because the other ones you know, they used both. But, I mean, obviously you can see here the setup works. It's just not all that great. So, once again, the high beams, you know, when you look at it on a static wall like this, sure, it looks great. But when you're driving down the road, it really doesn't throw the distance of the light much further. And even then, it's not a concentrated light down the road like it's supposed to be. It's all just kind of random and everywhere, and that X pattern is kind of patchy. And I don't know why that X pattern is there. It just shouldn't be there, and I do not get that problem with my halogens. Once again, I always compare everything to the standard in my car, which is Sylvania Silver Stars. Those are just like a little bit above standard halogens, and they've never had a problem. And yet this HID kit here is having a few problems. The installation is a little bit more difficult than the previous HID kit that I used, which was a single xenon. Definitely way more difficult than most of my LED kits. And, you know, I might feel that maybe a 55 watt kit might be, you know, a bit better. I have a feeling that would involve a lot more work too, because it's using more power. Maybe not, but I don't know. Maybe I might try the dual xenon 55 watt kit instead of a 35 watt kit. Because again, just like the other one I tried, this is 35 watt, except this is just dual xenon. So, do I recommend these? Not particularly. The light pattern is just not where it needs to be, and the high beams are just completely disappointing again. I don't know what it is about aftermarket kits in my car. They just don't work that well. And you know what? It's not just my car. It's 9007 socket kits in general, it seems, because I've tried it on a different vehicle to see the difference, and boy, let me tell you, it was even worse on other vehicles that were American made and their reflector units. Now, who knows, if this was a 9007 kit with a projector unit instead of a reflector, who knows, maybe this would be an awesome kit. But I'm using reflectors in my car, and it just doesn't work well. It doesn't cut the mustard, as they say. So with that being said, I really don't recommend these either. They're slightly better than the other kit that I tried, but I don't think I'm going to stick with these. Anywho, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends, check out my other videos. I got plenty of them. And as always, I'll see you next time. Please drive safe and happy Halloween.